Welcome back to the channel, folks, and to a short guide on how to make your own Panzer III observer tank. Now, you may just use an ordinary Panzer III model for this, but if you've got a spare kit, or you can source one individually from a friend or online, then you can make yourself a very passable Panzer III observer, which is quite accurate. It certainly works on the tabletop and pretty much straight out of the box. I've used a couple of bits from my spare box, a little bit of track armour and the Hull MG of a Tiger tank. I've got millions of these little bits lying around, folks. I just snip them off the sprue and keep them in a bag just in case they come in handy. You might be like that yourself, but if not, you can do all of this with the standard Panzer III kit. Now, that's the early model Panzer III, but I'm sure the late one will give you the same options if you want one with side skirts. Anyway, let's get on with the build process. Let's begin by taking a look at the changes we're going to have to make to the basic kit. The turret's going to have the most changes, but let us start with the hull just now. So first of all, the bow machine gun needs to be removed, and in this case the optional addition of a piece of track armour. And then you can see I've used the ball mount from the bow machine gun as the antenna on the back. That is optional, of course, because you may need that for the turret. And on the turret you can see I have altered the mantlet so it can take a bow machine gun, and also we've got the fake barrel for the main gun, as well as the sighting mechanism that's attached to the turret top. So that's carefully cut off the bow machine gun. Going to do quite a bit of tricky work on the mantlet, kind of work that could result in making a bit of a mess of the mantlet, so we need to be careful with that. We'll also need the 75mm barrel for the sighting mechanism that's going to go on top of the turret, and to mount it we'll be cutting off the bolts that are on top of the extractor fan mounting. Let's start with the bow machine gun. Now, we'll need a sharp knife for this, folks. We want to try and cut it as neat as possible because we need to reuse this part either as the MG mount on the turret or the aerial mount, as we'll see. So I've cut it off. It's come out a bit uneven, so I'm going to have to try and file it down carefully so that it's going to sit evenly where I'm going to use it, which is going to be on the rear deck as that aerial mount. And that's a simple little job. A little bit of glue, and then just get it in there nice and even on the back deck. Then file down the old mounting point. Now, if you're going to cover this up with a bit of track armour, you don't have to worry about being too neat, but if you're going to be leaving it blank, then spend a little bit of time just to get this nice and smooth. Next up, we can glue on the bow plate, and then taking that bit of track armour, if you've got it, folks, we can glue that over the space that's been created by the removal of the hull machine gun. Next up is the element that's going to take most of our effort here, folks, and that is the turret mantlet. So we've first of all got to remove the main gun and then start tidying it up. This is where we've got to work carefully here, but at this stage not too accurately. We just have to make sure we're not removing more than we want to at this stage. Once we have the top and the bottom sections prepared, glue them together, set them aside. Make sure they're nice and dry for the next stage where we're going to start chewing into the assembly, and if necessary as well, do some filling before we move on to the next stage. Now, for the sight mounted on top of the turret, we're going to take the 75mm gun. We're going to remove the short section of the gun. That's a bit too small for what we need. We're going to be using the thicker section of the gun barrel here, folks. It's a perfect size to cover the mounting point on the turret. I strongly recommend you use purpose designed modelling tools for this stage, folks. Even just removing pieces from sprues, proper modelling snippers are better than average sort of general purpose ones you might pick up at a DIY store, for instance, because this way you can get flatter cuts and cuts that are much closer to where you want them to be without so much of a, if you imagine, sort of conical kind of finish, which means filing is a lot easier. Once you have the cut off, smoothed nice and even, you can then mount it on that little plate on the top of the turret. And then we're back to the mantlet, folks. So I've got my dust tray here because I'm going to be doing a lot of filing and sanding and things here, and you want to catch that dust and get rid of it, not have it just lying around your workstation. What I'm doing just now is just a bit of prep work, just smoothing off some areas that are going to be difficult for me to work with once the ball mount machine gun and the fake barrel's in place. Now we're starting with a rotary tool to make the initial cut into the front of the mantlet. If you don't have a rotary tool, well, you can just use your files, folks. This is just saving me a bit of time and hopefully also helping me maintain a bit of accuracy, so that when I'm ready to use the file, I've already got a space that can contain the motion of the file as I'm going back and forward, so it's nice and tight. A more accurate version of the observer tank would have the MG in the turret recessed into the mantlet. It's quite a deep recessed, it's not a ball mount sticking out as I'm going to do, but that's quite a bit more extra work, folks. If however you want to do that, check some reference photos and you'll understand what I'm saying. It almost looks like a pillbox style MG mount. And now I'm just going to work it a bit more using my blunt blade. Remember, folks, I use a blunt hobby blade for this. As I said, it saves on flesh and on plastic, and I'm just going to start working the edges so that I'm now ready to get the file in and give it a bit of depth. And then it's the filing, folks, and we want to just keep this nice and tight and accurate, so we've got nice square sides and then the depth that we want. Then when we're happy with the recess, we can attach the MG. For the fake gun barrel, we're going to cut off the 50mm version that comes with the kit, file it, get it ready, remove mould lines, etc., and then glue it on top of the hole left from the coax machine gun that we've previously cut off. And always recommend that when you're mounting barrels onto your tanks, that you put the turret onto the vehicle and then make sure that the gun is drying in a position where it is straight but also at the right elevation. If you just put it on and leave it, it might move, it might sag, especially for longer barrels, it might droop down, so just make sure it's sitting up right. And that's us done, folks. Nice, simple, easy job to do, and gets you something which is very, very passable on the tabletop for your Panzer III Observer. Leaves it just for me to say thanks for watching as always, thanks to the subscribers and to you guys who drop into the channel from time to time to see what's going on. If you'd like to help out, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell button. That means we'll definitely see you all on the next one.